Hey guys, Karen here with Whiskey Sour. A little closer than usual. What's going on, Whiskey? I rearranged my room yesterday and I think everything just kind of repositioned itself. So I'm setting up the camera thinking, it doesn't look the same, but Whiskey's still here. I hope you guys are doing good. I wrote a blog today called Is Your Flower Dead? And it's kind of like when you drop your ice cream on the floor. Same deal. Staring at that dead flower. It was brought on from a quote by Ramana Maharshi, who is an Indian philosopher, and he says, "There is nothing wrong with God's creation. Mystery and suffering only exists in the mind." And I was thinking about this, and of course I love quotes. I don't always think about me with quotes. I don't always completely agree or disagree, but all a quote has to do for me is cause me to think. And I kind of view people like this too. I'll sit in a room with a really awkward, weird person for a long time just listening to them, not because I think they have something really super intelligent to say, but I think they might have something interesting to say. And as a writer, you know, it's always potential material. But so a quote like this that Ramana said, "There is nothing with God's creation, mystery and suffering only exist in the mind." Now, I could probably think about this quote. If I sat here on my bed all day, I would just think all day long about it. I'm not going to because I have a lot of work to do. But I like quotes that do that. And I was thinking about this potential dialogue that was going on in my brain. And it starts with a man asking a boy, "Do you know how to make a flower?" And the boy says, "Sure, you plant a seed in the ground." And the man responds and says, "Is that it?" And the boy says, "Well, you have to plant it in the sun and make sure you water it." So that seems to be kind of the end of the analogy, right? That we're used to hearing, or that sort of thing. But let me just add on to it a little bit. I go on to say, the man asks, "Do you tell everyone you were responsible for making that flower?" And the boy says, "Yes, of course. If I worked hard to grow it, I'm going to tell everybody." And then the man speaks softly and says, "Did I ask you if you grew it?" And the boy looks confused and says, "Wasn't that the question?" And the man laughs and says, "No. I asked you if you knew how to make a flower." The funny thing is that we do this a lot in life where we exclude the spirit, the creator, the world, or people around us, and the things which go well in our life, and in the things that we go wrong, we tend to blame them. You know, it just seems to be the way. We are also quick to blame something external. If our flower dies, you know, it's just like, or if you drop the ice cream, you know, it's like, "Oh, the guy in the store didn't put that half a scoop tucked inside the cone before he put my scoop on top, so therefore it wasn't balanced properly and I dropped my cone." Like, we tend to do that. And in reading Ramana's quote, it did spur a ton of thought. And that part where he says there's nothing wrong with God's creation, well, even if you don't believe, and I'm not going into that, let's not go there. Even if you don't believe someone made the earth, it's hard to argue that it is wonderfully put together. It's when you look around. If you've ever visited the wonders of the world, if you've ever gone on long trips, if you've gone on a boat, if you've gone in an airplane and looked down, if you've really experienced the world, you can't really argue that it's really magnificently put together, this world. And so even if you don't think that someone made it all, you can't argue at that point. It's difficult to agree with this entire quote, even though I'm always thankful when anything causes me to think. But in the same way a quote I don't necessarily agree with can spur some thought, I have come to understand I can view the world as being dynamically put together. It's just, you don't have to agree with something, but you can agree that something is put together really well. And mystery may not only be in the mind. For all I know, maybe the answers are just waiting for us, and we're just too lazy to look for it. And suffering could be optional, or it could be real. You know, I think pain is real and suffering is optional, like we've heard that quote before. But the bigger idea behind this whole quote is the thought that we can place blame on things which have been here for years. You know, there's the law of physics we can just complain about. And in a conversation, this conversation that I constructed above between this boy and this man, I was giving an analogy of how we forget to thank the external sources, but so often we place blame on them, like in the first part of Ramana's quote where he said there's nothing wrong with God's creation. The world sucks. right? We've heard this before. It's a very popular saying, and I don't believe that the world sucks. I do not believe that. I experience way too much of it. I go on too many hikes. I hang out with animals too much. I've experienced storms and rain and snow and all the wonders of this world for me to ever think the world sucks. Placing blame on the world or anyone in it may have assisted in our fall, but we were part of our fall, even if by 1 single %. And I also don't believe this attitude happens the other way around, where we become truly thankful when good things happen. We celebrate with alcohol, with festivities. We might even jump on a podium saying how awesome we are. And we proclaim things like, I did it. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself. Some of us could use that. You know, there's some people out there who really feel like they're just completely worthless and do nothing, and they could use some of the little bit of that pride. But be sure, just like that flower, you did not get there all by yourself. And you can at least thank the ground that you walked on, if you can't muster up any thanks for anything else. I also feel like that flower, we are only responsible for the things that we control. And if you didn't actually have to stuff a bunch of information inside a seed. You know, and that's pretty cool. It reminds me of whenever I have to fly somewhere. I remember Frank and I flying from New York to LA, and we were working on a record there, and I was complaining about how agitated I was and how my legs were really crowded, and he looks at me and he says, I love to fly. I don't have to do anything. And the phones aren't ringing, and guess what? I don't have to fly the plane. He thought it was pretty cool that he could just pass somebody some money, jump on a plane, and be in New York. That he didn't have to actually fly the plane, and he could have a little sleep while he's doing it. He says, imagine if you had to stay awake and alert and you were responsible for getting everyone safely across the country. He says, you have no responsibility here. It kind of causes me to think a little bit differently when I fly. And I think I understand what Romano was saying in his quote, although I think it's a very multi-tiered quote. And unless you sat down maybe with Romano and said, what did you mean by this? You can't really be sure exactly, but I do think it's multi-tiered. We can relieve ourselves of certain responsibilities. We can give credit where credit is due. We can quit blaming everyone and everything around us. And we can view our own suffering as optional. I do love things that cause me to think deeply. I think this particular one helps me to let go of a little bit of the control and just enjoy the information, like what is inside that seed, and go into a mode of discovery and a little bit of a journey and just check things out. I think there's things I'm responsible for, and there's things I'm not responsible for. The things I'm responsible for, I can control those. The things I'm not responsible for, I can actually just like a little curious girl, just check it out. Just see what it's like. Check it out. Check it out. Oh, somebody's gonna rip on me for that. I'm Canadian. Give me a break. I believe if we slot ourselves into the world as opposed to forcing it into some kind of shape, which isn't in alignment with just how the world functions and how it has been functioning for thousands of years before we even got here, I think we can not only breathe better, but we can actually begin to enjoy life again, and just instead of hating it so much, we just hate it. God, we hate life. We always hate it. And I think we can actually learn to enjoy it a little bit more. Let go of some of the responsibility, and enjoy the things that are in front of us. Could be done. So I hope you guys are loving life, or enjoying life, or at least being okay with life. And if you don't, does something seem really out of your control? I think that's a good question to ask. If I've done this a lot, where I just go, okay, well, I'm not really digging this. You know, it's like it being at a party. Do you have the keys to the car and can you go home? Are you in control of something if something's not going well, if you're not enjoying something? And if you do not have complete control of a situation, can you let go a little bit? Or do you have to really annoy yourself, anger people around you, and be annoying, be angry, and just not enjoy your time? I think that's unnecessary. And if your flower has died, Was it your flower to begin with? And there's that ownership thing that happens with our problems. Or is it possible that the life of that flower is only so long? That's the reality of it. That's how the world functions. Maybe there's some seeds within there that you can plant, some poppy seeds or something. Can you make art from it? Maybe you got these dead plants or this dead flower, and maybe you can make some art from it. So I signed off my Is Your Flower Dead blog today with pressing leaves in a book. And I was reminded, oh, I need to actually go. I don't think I've thanked her. Soda, you sent me some, I'm sure you'll be watching this blog. I hope you'll be watching this blog. I'm not sure anybody watches them. You sent me a really lovely card from Canada with some leaves pressed in it. And I can't thank you enough for that, because leaves to me are really symbolic, and especially in Canada where the leaves turn these amazing colors. And any of you guys who live in, north or the New York area or in Canada, there's a place by Hamilton that's just extraordinary where you see yellows and reds and oranges. And so she sent me some leaves, and I've always pressed leaves in a book. And I do it down here. The leaves in California, there's some huge ones that I've pressed in books. And so I love that, because they symbolize change, but they also symbolize art. I can take something that's seemingly dead and just still keep it as art and see the beauty in that, and that's pretty cool. I'm also thinking about a maple tree that when I lived in Canada, there was a house I lived at where a maple tree grew that I did not plant, and it was cooler than pretty much everybody's maple tree anywhere. It just came from a key, a maple key, and it grew in the backyard. And the neighbor lady came over, and a very sweet lady, but she was trying to tell me to prune it. She says you should prune it off so it'll grow up nice and straight and everything. And I said, you know what? It planted itself here. I just want to see what it's going to do. I really, just like a little girl, I just want to see what it's going to do. I don't have to get in there with these pruning tools and just clip everything off of it. I really want to see what this is going to do. And it turned out that the tree was just one of the most gorgeous trees ever that grew. And where it grew, just the look of it is just beautiful, beautiful maple tree. And I haven't lived there for a long time, and she told me in an email, she says, Karen, you should see your maple tree. It is absolutely breathtaking. And I said, you know what? It's not my maple tree. I did not plant it. It might have fell into my backyard, but I didn't plant it there. I didn't do anything. It just grew on its own. So, but I am glad to hear that without touching something, it still can be beautiful. Just let go of the control a little bit. And I ended with a Henry Ellis quote. All the art of living lies in a fine mingling of letting go and holding on. And it really, truly does. It's kind of about us finding our balance. Just when should we get control of a situation? And when can we let go of that situation? And if your flower is dead, there might be a new beauty in that. Or it might be time for you to move on from that flower. Maybe go grow a new one. And just check out how beautiful creation can be, and when we let go. Anyway, I'm just blithering on and on now, but I love quotes like this that just make me think. And I could sit here all day, but I have tons of work to do, so I better go. But as always, I enjoy talking to you guys and checking in with you, and I hope things are going very well and you are enjoying and loving life, okay? So until next time, from Whiskey Sour and me, rock on.